Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
Today we try to understand material master. What is meant by material master? Why we need a material master in our organizations? First question is why we need to create different masters. Mainly SAP will be helpful to us to understand the business processes. How the SAP will be given different kinds of the masters, how we need to handle here in the material master. If you talk about the business, if you want to manufacture one of the fine, tuned finished product, what you need generally. You need different kinds of the different materials, like you need the raw material, you need the semi-finished, you need packaging materials. You have the multiple different kinds of the materials are available in the organization. How are you going to differentiate? This material is raw material. This material is a semi-finished material. This material is a packaging material. Like how you try to provide the differentiation. Everything happens from the part number. The part number is one other thing. The part number is like we differentiate based on how you are able to see in the business side. Even, for example, if the new guy is joined, he don't know how to need to handle. In that case, what we will do? What is the easiest way? For example, if you give me part number, I don't know whether it is raw material or semi-finished material. Yes? How, like if some layman need to understand what kind of material is there? What we will do generally? We will maintain some different number ranges. Generally, how system we going to differentiate is faster with the industry sector. For example, if we are in the manufacturing, then we will select the manufacturing as industry. Then we are going to differentiate with the type of material. Type of material. What kind of materials we have? We have the raw material, semi-finished material, packaging material. Finished. Like we have the different types of the materials. Even SAP will provide around 40 different types of the materials. Now, for example, if some normal layman or business want to differentiate the type of materials, how the things will be handled. First one is raw material. We have the raw materials, for example, ROH. Then business say, if any raw material I want to see with this number series. If any number is created, I can see this is with the raw materials. When we are different raw materials business need to give all the things. And for materials, how I can see, for example, 3 series. And here will be how it can be 4 series. By seeing this number itself, I can differentiate whether it is a raw material or a semi-finished or finished material, or what kind of material it is there. This is how we need to maintain the number ranges. Now I'm telling we are maintaining the number ranges. It is not like that much of easy to maintain the number ranges in the system. There is a concept called as a number grouping. First, what we will do, we'll create a one group. Create one group. Then what we do, for example, I created A, B, C, one group. For this group, whatever the number range is assigned, the number range also, I'll create like a step. What I'll do, distinguish my number range. What I'll do, I assign this number range to group 10. Then for this group, I link the material type. This is a combination. If I'll maintain the number ranges to the group, what will happen once it is done like this? Whenever you are creating the material, how you create the material system? There is a transaction code called as a MNR1. If you use a MNR1 transaction code, what will happen? To enter this MNR1, you need what are the first mandatory fields is industry sector. Industry sector, for example, manufacturing and material type. Material type is raw material. If I enter this industry sector and this thing, what is happening in the back-end system? Once we enter this raw material type, immediately it will look for this raw material is linked to which group. For AB, ABC is what is the number range we need to assign to ABC. What does it mean by 10? It will go and search these numbers. That way, if it's done, is assigning this number ranges. It will come as this one if you maintain these number ranges as internal number ranges. If you maintain the external number ranges, there is a concept called as internal number ranges and external number ranges. If you maintain external number ranges, what is happening? Even though you maintain the number ranges, but you need to provide these numbers to system. Understand which numbers? For example, now this is I maintain as internal number ranges, system automatically assign these numbers. You got my material. But now there is a check. Whenever you're defining this internal and external, there is a checks. If you won't select anything, then system will be considered as a internal number ranges. If you consider it is a external, you want the number ranges to be external. What is happening? System required, you need to provide the tick mark. What is happening? The tick mark will be there, and that can be if you think that external system will expect the external number ranges need to be maintained by someone. Now you see, you just like you enter the same thing, like you maintain this industry sector, this one, and raw material type, this one, and you click on enter. What is happening once you click on that one? Once you click on that one, automatically system going to check this raw material is assigned to which group. A, B, C group, and what is the number range? 10, 10 is an external group. Please enter external number ranges, which means system is asking what is the external number range. At that time, you need to maintain number. Like whatever the external number range is, you maintain them. That number range, you're going to maintain them. This is about how the number ranges will be. Assigned to the material type. This is like how we can differentiate the industry sector, how we can define the material type, and how we can maintain the number ranges, like how we are going to assign this number ranges to the things here. The next one is we will define a purchase group. What does it mean by purchasing group? In organizations, if you want to procure some material, not everyone will go and procure this material. There is a different organizations. Different organization or different departments will be there. Those guys will do the procurement. Generally, we call that as a purchasing guys. If you want any material, first you need to inform to them. Then that guy will look into it and they will say from which vendor we need to procure and material. Then those guys will be informed. Then those guys only generally raise the order to the end vendor and they'll try to get the material to us on time. That department, guys, generally we will call it as a purchasing people. How you are going to differentiate that purchasing people? Then we will create it as a purchasing group. It is like a 3-characteristic code. Then we can define 1001, 1002, 1003, etc. That is about how we can differentiate the purchasing group. We will see in the system practically, even though just I'm telling about that theoretically. You will understand. Next one is material group. The material group is a group of materials which have the similar attributes and characteristics. The grouping, we will call it as a material group. For example, I differentiated. I have the raw materials. Raw steel is there. And some other different steels I have. For example, material group. For example, I want the material group as steel. How many forms I can procure the steel? Steel can be, I have raw steel. And I have a semi in finisher. And the finished steel. If I create raw steel means it is a raw material, then it will be. Number will become in this format. Semi-finished steel. It will come from this format. This number range. Finished steel. I can see as this number. For me, different materials. For me, there is a different types of the materials like raw material and semi-finished finished. Three different types of the materials we have. If you see which will have the different ways of the things. Raw material will be having the raw steel. Semi-finished directly we can consumption it. And we have this different things. But how the system is helping? Now I want to look at about the different steels. It may be raw, it may be semi-finished. I want to look at how I can look at. There is a concept called as a material group. Even though raw materials are semi-finished, you can link this group to all the material types. What will happen if you do it that way? Even though it is a different kind of the materials. But if you want to search that you can identify easily. You can search in material type. Materials, different materials. You can search by using up the material groups. That is the importance of the material group. That raw steel we have 10,000. Who can tell this number? This is like a function. It is like a two ways. Either we will give access to the business. Business will give, or we have the separate team called as a support team. They will create a number. They will create. For example, if you joined in the supporting, then we need to create the materials. It is not the creating of the materials, all the work you need to do. Whatever we are doing now, all the things we need to handle in the system. This is about how the material can be done here. Material group. Next is a purchase value key. What is mean by this purchase value key? What is the importance of this purchase value key? Generally, this purchase value key will be helpful for us over deliveries, under deliveries, and acknowledgements and shipping instructions. These kind of things if you want to give to the vendor. If you want to procure some material, if you want to maintain, what is the tolerance you want over delivery? How much you want to maintain and what is the shipping instructions? What is a purchase value key? All those things you want to maintain. That all things we can handle in the purchase value key. What are the things we can handle this by using of this? First one is tolerances. Second one is shipping instructions. And third one is order of. By this we can handle. What is the importance of the tolerance cluster? Generally, for example, I ordered a quantity called as 100 kgs. What the businesses did, they are expecting some more materials. For example, they shared 100 quantity. And the vendor, for example, the vendor find that 10 quantities are extra. Now vendor want to supply 10 quantity extra even though I give an order to the 100. Generally, if I order 100, system will have the provision you can take only the 100. You cannot take more than that. If you want to take more than that, what you can do? That time what we will do generally, we will maintain the tolerances in the system. How do you maintain the tolerances in the system? In here. The inventory team will maintain all these things. Purchasing team will maintain. Purchasing team will maintain these tolerances. What we will do? We will maintain the tolerances in the system. Once we maintain the tolerances, what will happen? Even though you give an order as 100, their vendor, your vendor provided stock. Sorry, your vendor provided 10 kg extra. If you maintain, for example, 10% tolerances, or 10, how much 10% means? I ordered as a Tegis. Now I want a 10% tolerance on that one. Tolerances means here you have two things again inside. One is over delivery and another one is under delivery. What does it mean by over delivery? Over delivery means, for example, I give a 10% tolerance. On order coordinates. For example, my order quantity is 100. 10% means how much 10 kgs I can take. Total, how much I can take. 100 plus 10 is equal to 10. Quantity I can take. If you maintain this tolerance, order delivery tolerance, what will happen? System will allow until 1110 keys, even though you've given an order 100. But if you maintain 110, 10% tolerance system, will be allowed to do a good service sector. This is like how the tolerances we are going to handle in the systems. Even similar to the under delivery tolerances also. How the system going to handle over delivery and under delivery tolerances and order of acknowledgements from the supplier and shipping instructions. These all things can be handled in the form of the purchase value key here. And we have the different topics in the material master itself. Once it is done, now we have the different transaction codes. Mimili 1 generally we use to create the materials. Mimili 2 we use change materials. Mimili 3 to see the display. Mimili 4 6 delete. 4 further changes. This code is common for all the materials. Everything is common. If you need to create codes, you can use only memory 1. These things and Milo 6 and Me 17. This we generally use for the mass changes. These are the different decodes we have. Every data in the system. Generally, if you want to go further, I created some material. Where this material will be stored. This material will be stored in the back end. Correct. For back end, where it will be stored. It is stored in the form of the tables. It will be stored in the form of the tables. We have the different tables like Milo 1, Milo 2, Milo 3. We have the different tables. General data for materials MARC. Plan data MARDI storage preparation. Unit of measure. Like that. We have the different tables in the system. This all data we can access as a functional consultant. We can access. We can look into it. How the things will be stored in the system. How we need to fetch the data. That all things we can check. How you need to access. Tables. A table you can access in a different level. SC6, C16. This all things we need to check in the system. How the things will be handled. This is about generally how we can handle the different material masters. Now we will see the vendor master. What are the control functions of the material master? Material master control functions are material type and industry sector, because by using that only we are going to create the materials. But what is the control functions of the vendor? Here also we have the vendor account group. Vendor account group. Second one is a purchase. Purchase organizations. What is meant by vendor account group? Similarly, we have the material type. These account groups also plays a role. How you can create a material in the different types. For example, I have an account group Zalan 1. For example, how these vendors will generally differentiate. Vendors we will going to differentiate as two ways. One is a domestic procurement. Another one is import procurement. What is meant by domestic? Domestic within 30 kilometers. Domestic means if you are, for example, you are in India. You want to procure some material from within the country. Then we will call it as a domestic procurement. The same thing if you want to procure from the abroad, not from the India and from the abroad. For example, some machinery you want to procure from the Germany. What you will do generally, you will look for the imports procurement. Imports procurement means you need to procure from some different vendors from the different country. For example, you want to procure some machinery from the Germany. What he will do? How you need to pay him first thing? Correct. Generally, what we will do here, we need to understand if you are procuring within India generally. Here, if you go for the domestic procurements, generally what will happen, the domestic vendor payments, like you will do RC, like 80 days payment in the Indian currencies. Even the vendor in that day in the India. For example, if the same vendor it is not there in India and he told you need to procure and from a vendor, that guy will accept only the dollars. How you need to pay? You need to pay in the dollars only, not Indian currencies. There, our way of working will be going to change. Generally in the domestic, what we will do, we will handle currency as a INR and if the same. Say, if you want to procure the same material from the broad vendor, then we are going to maintain different dollar or different currencies. Depends on the vendor. We are going to handle that. Here now, I want to differentiate the domestic vendors and import vendors. How I can do it? I'll define two different codes. ACO1 is one code and ACO2 is my another code. Generally ACO1, I'll tell as it is my domestic and it is my import. It's for his understanding. But suppose if ACO1 means all comes under the domestic. Domestic, yes. And ACO2 all come under the imports. And what I'll do? I'll create one number ranges. Here I'll make 1000. Then what I'll do? I'll go to ACR1. I'll assign this one. What happened whenever you are going to create this vendor ACR1? What are the important things when you are going for the vendor creation? What is things you will give vendor account group? Vendor account group and purchase organizations. Vendor account group purchase organization plays a major role whenever you want to create a vendor. Whenever you try to give this vendor, what is happening? System initially will check which kind of vendor it is. It is a domestic vendor or it is an import vendor. If it is a domestic vendor, system will go and click the domestic number ranges and it will be maintained the same thing there. That is a way like generally how you are going to handle all those things. It depends on like a vendor and the purchasing organizations. These will be placed like the number range for the vendor. And by based on this vendor account group, you will tell it is a domestic vendor or import vendor. And by purchase organization level, we are going to handle it is a currency. What kind of currency for this vendor? If it is a local procurement, we will assign a local vendor. Local purchase organization. If the same vendor is a domestic procurement, then we are going to handle it. The different purchase organization level. This is about like a domestic vendor and import vendors. And here in the vendor master, we will define the payment terms. Do you know payment terms? 90 days or 180 days. 120 days. There is a different payment terms will be there that we are going to see. And Incoterms. You know Incoterms. Incoterms means international commercial terms. Whenever we procure some material from the abroad, I mean import. At that time, generally we will maintain the international commercial terms like from where to where this material is mandatory and where he need to ship. If this is included, like a free on board, free for shipping or cost insurance will be included. That 15 Incoterms will be there that we will see how we are going to maintain the different kinds of the Incoterms in the vendor master, and we will see in the currency. Generally these currencies, all things can be handled by the finance team. But we will look into it how the things will be handled. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.